part of the problem with Westerners with the term Hindu is they don't, as you say, they don't find this term in the Bhagavad Gita. The texts that they read, really the texts that are read in the West, are going to be the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita. That's pretty much it. And they don't find these terms, and the term Hindu in these texts. And the reason is, I think the first time it surfaces is in the 16th century, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where the term Hindu is used. And it's used there to demarcate a community in contradistinction to the Muslims. So there's a political dimension to the term Hindu, which is not in all instances, but there is this political dimension, which of course gets enhanced by Savarkar in his definition of Hindutva, which Westerners are going to be uncomfortable with, that have nothing to do with that. And there may be other aspects involved with using the term Hindu that Western yogis just don't know what to do with, like deities, like caste, what is the caste system, and so many other things. And so therefore I think it's understandable both that Hindus want to reclaim yoga, but also that Westerners have some reluctance based on not knowing what to do with the term. The second point I want to make is that yoga has changed radically in the Indian subcontinent itself. If you look at the earliest references to yoga in the earliest Upanishads, they're embedded in this Vedic ritualistic context where the yogis were still performing fire sacrifice, ancestral beings. So it's gone from that to the Bhagavad Gita, takes yoga in a radically new direction, and Arjuna is surprised. He thinks yoga means to drop out and go and sit in the forest, and Krishna says no, act in the world. So the Gita takes yoga in a brand new direction in terms of, because yoga up until that point meant ascetic forest dwelling. So the Gita is doing something radical with the term yoga, as is the Tantric tradition. It's throwing this whole, Kundalini chakra physiology, which is not to be found in other texts. And likewise, Bhakti is doing dramatic new things with yoga. So yoga itself in the Indian subcontinent has changed considerably, and so it's natural that when it comes to the Western landscape, it's going to change all the more. And the final thing I want to say is, from a Patanjalian perspective, this whole idea of, I am a Hindu, or I'm an American, or I'm a yogi, and this somehow is mine, my culture. This is asmita, this is maya, this is illusion. The whole goal is to get beyond these kinds of identifications. One of the obstacles to yoga are the kleshas, and one of the kleshas is asmita, ego, to think that I am this body and I am this mind, and its extensions. And so I think it's quite probable that, that Patanjali would have been a little puzzled by this whole idea of reclaiming yoga for this, as Hindus. Having said that, another principle of yoga is also satyam, which means truthfulness. And it is fairly standard in Indian spiritual traditions to acknowledge your lineage. That's one of the first things that when you meet a teacher, he'll ask, who is your guru? That's a very standard. And so on the principle of truthfulness, I think then one should, then there are grounds in the Yoga Sutras to acknowledge what one's lineage is and where it's coming from. So I've just said two things on both sides of the fence.
It's quite Vedic /Hindu/yogic